When we look at the data, Bitcoin appears to be creating a bull trap. It is so much more feasible that Bitcoin experiences a little bit of a pump more to the upsides and then faces an ultimate rejection to go and dive deeper in towards Q4, identify its bottom, and then continue going towards the upside. Now, of course, nothing is 100% guaranteed. I have only the liberty to look at data from what happened in history and extrapolate that data into the future. I'm a Bitcoin bull. I'm somebody who buys Bitcoin every single day because I think that the financial system is on the brink of collapse. Is that collapse going to happen in a year from now, or 2 years from now, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years from now? Unfortunately, nobody knows. But I know that it's soon, and I know it's going to happen in my lifetime. And for me, Bitcoin is the way out from that collapse and pandemonium that is yet to arrive. So I'm comfortable in purchasing Bitcoin at $78,000 because I see $1.5 trillion market cap for the problem that Bitcoin solves being the only sole solution. I see that as like $100 trillion market. So I'm comfortable in buying at these prices. I'm very happy, even if Bitcoin was to go another 30% to the downside, or even, for that matter of fact, reach $38,000, which if it did, you would still be playing by the 4-year cycles because it would be a 70% drop from the all-time high. That is 126,238. That's 70%. Bitcoin is used to dropping by 77%, by 80% from all-time high to all-time low. So it wouldn't be something that ruins the 4-year cycle. You would still remain bullish. So as an investor, I am comfortable in taking that risk on buying Bitcoin here. In the event that it drops 30%, 40% more, I will hodl, I will not sell, I will buy more. But if you're a levered trader, I would be careful. I personally am being more careful because when we look at all of the data that Bitcoin has historically followed with almost a perfect correlation, such as the QT ending bear markets, Bitcoin, if you go back in history to the COVID scenario, you experienced the consolidation, you had the COVID crash, then a recovery, then more consolidation, and then eventually a move towards the upside. So if we include the COVID crash as a potential black swan that the traditional financial markets can face, we didn't have geopolitical risk when we were talking about COVID being a black swan, because now we have geopolitical risk and we have many political events that could identify and lead into becoming a, God forbid, black swan event. The S&P 500 and Bitcoin look very similar, with the S&P reaching a top. It's in a distribution phase, and if it were to follow Bitcoin, which I wouldn't be surprised about because their correlation is almost 90% on par when you zoom out into the macro, Bitcoin is leading this cycle. And it's always have led, actually. I mean, in the past cycle, Bitcoin dropped first, then the S&P. If the traditional financial markets were to go down, then Bitcoin would also go down in a black swanny esque environment. Even if you didn't go down, then until liquidity comes in, Bitcoin consolidates, it chops around. We know that the United States interest rates had a big drop in COVID to print in a bunch of money and stimulate the economy. Then, once that 0% interest rates and money borrowing eventually made its way into Bitcoin following a couple of months, then Bitcoin started going to the upside. In our current monetary environment, yes, rates are going lower technically, but it's nowhere at that 0% level. You're still so far away. So maybe the black swan happens, then they force cut the rates, and then boom, after Q4 low, you start going back to the upside. That is all very much speculation and up in the air. Until they cut rates, though, towards 0%, I don't see a huge parabolic move shining for Bitcoin, instead a ladder to the upside. And I think that Bitcoin, due to its similarity and its ongoing parity with the 4-year cycles, I think we can expect a rolling over. Selling may go away, we go down, and then in Q4 we find our low, and then we start going towards the upside. This is a comparison between 2026 and 2022, the previous bear markets. When we take a look at the bear market before, same thing, roll over, you go down, you sweep the lows that were created in February towards June, and then Q4 ends up being the low. So that is my personal expectation. It's not just Bitcoin that's following the prior cycles. The price of MicroStrategy is doing the exact same thing as it did in the last cycle too, which would mean that MSTR currently has a local top. identifies another small dump, and then eventually towards Q4 takes out the lows it made earlier this year, and then starts moving back to the upside. MSTR would end up following Bitcoin. I think that now is a good time to buy, like I told you, due to the overall macroeconomic situation. But when you go into data such as YouTube views and people's participation in the cryptocurrency industry, YouTube views about crypto, which looks into the sentiment in the best way possible, it has hit lows that you've not experienced since the price action experienced a massive parabolic rally in 2020. So before this parabolic rally, when Bitcoin was around here, you have the same amount of user engagement and user watch time on YouTube about the topic of Bitcoin. So people are not interested. And it's always better to buy into something you believe in the long term when people don't find interest in it, because when they eventually find interest, it will be when that asset is higher and that will mark the top. So it's always better to buy when people don't care and then sell when everybody starts caring and asking you for advice. So that's the Bitcoin updates, guys and girls. In the very short term, with Isaac Crypto 2 days ago, we charted the bullish divergence happening in the 1 hourly time frame. I said that if Bitcoin breaks above 76,400, then we can expect to move into 78K, which is exactly what happened. On the daily, Bitcoin still is operating in a bear flag. I still believe that if Bitcoin is able to break above the resistance of this bear flag, we go towards the 85K region, which would be resistance from multiple areas of price, including the bear flag, which formed between November to January, and then resistance from the April price action of last year. So I think it's a good level for Bitcoin to go to, fill in the CME gap, take out all the short positions, liquidate everyone, and then go back to the downside. So I think 85K would mark a point of reversal. So let's say it would all be dependent on if you can break the resistance of the bear flag. If you don't and you get rejected, then 70K, 60K is where you're looking at. And if you come down to that point, you might as well just go ahead and sweep the low in June. So that's the overall expectation. We spoke about the economy. I mean, even the person that President Trump appointed to head the Bureau of Labor Statistics, even he is saying, after adjusting for inflation, meaning devaluing the dollar to pay for government expenses, interest on debt is still set to continue rising. Currently in America, you are paying 1.3, or they are paying $1.3 for every $1 of revenue they make. So the debt is still going up extremely at a higher rate, and that will continue, and one day will lead to a total collapse in the system. Hyperinflation in the largest economy, like what's happening in Argentina and many other countries in the world, it will happen in the largest economy of the world. And when people cannot go and jump to the US dollar as a safe haven to protect themselves from hyperinflation, like what they did in Argentina and other smaller economies, they will go and pivot to Bitcoin, the currency that has no country, the currency that has no sort of institution backing it apart from the people itself. A quick geopolitical update. Iranian state media says that Iran has sent its latest proposal for the US to Pakistani mediators. The price of crude oil fell by a couple of dollars upon that news, but no reply from Americans on that latest proposal just yet. President Trump said right after Iran, they will be going to Cuba. So yeah, that's really not great news at all. And it increases the geopolitical risk in our current environment. And then funny things that happened were the Ethereum Foundation selling 10,000 Ethereum worth $23 million. I mean, do they even like Ethereum anymore? And I don't know if you're watching your timeline, but I just see a bunch of animals roast each other. Like this, honestly, is the funniest thing I've seen in a very long time. Cow saying horse is always whatever. Like it's just so funny. This has become my timeline. I don't see crypto anymore. I say the chicken calling cow you are beef. It's funny, dude. It's funny, but I've seen it too many times now, so I can't express the same amount of excitement and happiness as when I first read these jokes. Guys, with that said, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next update soon. Bye-bye. If you're looking for a place to be trading Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies, shout out to our sponsors. Make sure to check out the links in the description down below to BTCC, Weeks, and Bybits. You can go ahead and buy Bitcoin for the first time or start trading cryptocurrencies. Make sure to check the links in the description if you want to support the channel and get the best bonuses available. Thank you for watching, and as always, bye-bye.